my friends, I stand before you today to share a truth so profound, so powerful, that once you grasp it fully, your entire existence will transform. Within the architecture of your skull lies the most sophisticated instrument ever created, an instrument capable of turning poverty into wealth, defeat into victory, and dreams into tangible reality. Yet most people go through life never recognizing that they possess this extraordinary power. They search for success in external circumstances, in luck, in the actions of others, while the greatest force in the universe resides between their own ears. Today, I invite you to awaken to this reality. Your mind is not merely a tool for thinking. It is your superpower, and mastering it is the master key to mastering your destiny. There exists within every human being a creative force so potent that it shapes the very fabric of their reality. This is not mysticism or empty philosophy. It is an observable principle that has governed the rise of every great individual who has ever walked this earth. Consider the immigrant who arrives in a new land with nothing but the clothes on their back and a burning desire in their heart. Within 20 years, they have built an empire. Or think of the student who was told they would never amount to anything, who today stands as a beacon of achievement in their field. What separated these individuals from the countless others who remained trapped in mediocrity? The answer is singular and undeniable. They understood that thoughts are the seeds of reality, and they chose their thoughts with the care of a master gardener, tending to prize roses. The human mind operates on a principle that scientists and philosophers have observed for centuries. We become what we think about most of the time. This is not wishful thinking or positive affirmation without substance. This is biological reality. Neuroscientists have discovered that our thoughts create neural pathways in our brains, and the more we think certain thoughts, the stronger these pathways become. When you consistently hold an image of success in your mind, your brain begins to reorganize itself around that image. It starts to notice opportunities that were always there but invisible to you before. It begins to generate ideas and solutions that seemed impossible yesterday. Your subconscious mind, that vast and powerful servant, goes to work 24 hours a day to bring about the physical manifestation of your dominant thoughts. But here is where most people fail. They treat their minds like a garden with no fence, allowing any passing thought to take root and grow. They consume negative news for hours, surround themselves with cynical voices, and wonder why their lives feel heavy with limitation. They replay past failures in vivid detail, giving those failures more attention than their future victories, and then express surprise when history repeats itself. Your mind is indeed a superpower, but like any power, it can build or destroy depending on how you direct it. A man who spends his days dwelling on what he lacks will find more lack. A woman who sees herself as a victim will discover endless evidence to support that identity. This is not punishment from the universe. This is the law of mental creation working with perfect precision. Now let me share with you a story that illustrates this principle with crystalline clarity. In the 1950s, a sales organization conducted an experiment with their representatives. They took two groups of salespeople with similar experience and track records. The first group was instructed to spend 15 minutes each morning visualizing themselves making successful sales calls, seeing themselves handling objections with grace, and feeling the satisfaction of closing deals. The second group received no such instruction and continued with their normal routines. After 90 days, the results were staggering. The group that practiced mental visualization increased their sales by an average of 37%, while the control group's numbers remained virtually unchanged. The only difference was the conscious direction of thought. The same product, the same market, the same circumstances, but vastly different results because of what happened in the mind first. This brings us to a critical understanding. Your current circumstances are not your final destination. They are simply the physical manifestation of your past thinking. If you wish to change your circumstances, you must first change your thinking. This requires vigilance, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to guard your mental gates. You must become selective about what you allow into your consciousness, with the same fierce protection a parent shows for their child. Every book you read, every conversation you engage in, every image you consume is either strengthening your superpower or weakening it. There is no neutral ground. You are either moving toward the life you desire or drifting away from it, and that movement begins in the silent chambers of your mind. The most successful individuals throughout history have all shared this common trait. They were masters of their own thinking. They refused to accept the limitations that others tried to place upon them. They held firm to their vision even when every external circumstance screamed that it was impossible. Thomas Edison conducted 10,000 experiments before creating a working light bulb. When asked about his failures, He replied that he had not failed, he had simply discovered 10,000 ways that didn't work. This is the mindset of someone who understands that their mind is their superpower. Temporary defeats become lessons. Obstacles become opportunities for creative problem solving. Critics become irrelevant noise in the background of a symphony being composed within. Let us now turn our attention to the second great principle of mental power, the undeniable connection between belief and achievement. You have heard it said that whether you believe you can or believe you cannot, you are correct. This is not clever wordplay. This is the fundamental operating system of human potential. Your beliefs act as the thermostat of your life, setting the temperature for what is possible. If you believe deep in your subconscious mind that you are destined for a mediocre income, you will unconsciously sabotage any opportunity that might exceed that expectation. If you believe that relationships always end in disappointment, you will behave in ways that ensure this prophecy fulfills itself. Your beliefs are not passive observations about reality. They are active forces that shape reality. Consider the fascinating case of Roger Bannister and the 4-minute mile. For decades, medical experts and athletic authorities declared that it was physiologically impossible for a human being to run a mile in less than 4 minutes. They had data, they had theories, they had the weight of conventional wisdom behind their proclamation. Runners tried and failed, which only reinforced the collective belief. Then, on May 6, 1954, Roger Bannister broke through this mental barrier, completing a mile in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. But here is what makes this story truly remarkable. Within 1 year of Bannister's achievement, 37 other runners also broke the 4-minute barrier. Within 2 years, over 300 had done it. The human body had not suddenly evolved. The track conditions had not dramatically improved. What changed was belief. Once one person proved it was possible, the limiting belief dissolved, and others could access capabilities that had been there all along, locked behind bars of false conviction. This principle operates in every area of human endeavor. A young person grows up in poverty, surrounded by messages that success belongs to others, that their circumstances define their destiny, that dreaming beyond their current reality is foolish. These messages, repeated thousands of times, become embedded in the subconscious mind as belief, and unless these beliefs are consciously identified and replaced, they will govern that person's behavior for life. They will stop short of their goals because something inside whispers, "People like you don't achieve things like this." They will turn away from opportunities because an inner voice says, "That's not for you." Meanwhile, another young person, perhaps with fewer natural advantages, but armed with empowering beliefs instilled by a mentor or discovered through study, marches forward with confidence and achieves what seems impossible to others. The tragedy is not that we lack capability. The tragedy is that we accept limiting beliefs as truth. Psychologists estimate that by the age of 18, the average person has heard no or you can't over 150,000 times, while hearing yes or you can fewer than 5,000 times. Is it any wonder that so many people approach life with hesitation and doubt? But here is the liberating truth: beliefs can be changed. You are not imprisoned by the conditioning of your past. Your mind is not concrete, it is clay, and you can reshape it deliberately and systematically. The process begins with awareness. You must become conscious of the beliefs that currently govern your actions. When you catch yourself thinking, "I'm not good enough," or "That's too difficult for someone like me," you must pause and ask, is this actually true? Or is this a belief I inherited from others who themselves were limited by false ideas? Once you identify a limiting belief, you must replace it with an empowering one. This is not about denying reality or pretending that challenges don't exist. This is about refusing to accept permanent limitations that are actually temporary circumstances. Instead of, "I can't afford that," you train yourself to ask, "How can I afford that?" Instead of, "I'm not smart enough," you affirm, "I am constantly learning and growing in intelligence." The language you use with yourself matters immensely because your subconscious mind is always listening, always accepting your declarations as instructions for what to create in your life. Let me share with you a story that demonstrates the staggering power of belief. In a hospital ward, a group of patients suffering from severe pain were given a new medication that they were told would provide significant relief. The medication worked remarkably well, with patients reporting dramatic reductions in pain. The fascinating twist: the medication was a placebo, a sugar pill with no medicinal properties whatsoever. Yet because the patients believed it would help them, their brains released natural painkillers called endorphins, and their symptoms genuinely improved. The belief itself triggered a cascade of biological responses that created the very outcome they expected. Now, if belief can alter physical pain and trigger healing responses in the body, Consider what it can do for your career, your relationships, your financial situation, and every other dimension of your life. The most powerful beliefs you can cultivate are beliefs about your own worth and capability. When you believe with unshakable certainty that you deserve success, your behavior aligns with that belief. You show up differently. You speak with authority. You persist when others quit because quitting would contradict your identity as someone destined for achievement. Conversely, if you harbor hidden beliefs of unworthiness, you will unconsciously arrange circumstances to confirm those beliefs. You might arrive late to important meetings, underprepare for critical presentations, or accept less than you deserve in negotiations, all because your actions must align with your beliefs, even when those beliefs work against your conscious desires. This is why affirmations, when done correctly, can be so powerful. You are not trying to convince yourself of something false. You are overriding old programming with new instructions. When you repeatedly affirm, "I am capable of achieving great things," you are creating new neural pathways and weakening the old ones that carried messages of limitation. When you visualize yourself succeeding, your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one, so it begins to accept this new reality as truth. Over time, with consistency and emotional intensity, these new beliefs become as automatic as the old limiting ones were, except now they are working for you rather than against you. The third and perhaps most transformative principle is this: your mind has the power to attract the people, circumstances, and resources necessary for the achievement of your definite purpose. This is not magic, this is focus. When you concentrate your mental energy on a clear, specific goal, your brain's reticular activating system goes to work. This part of your brain acts as a filter, determining what information gets through to your conscious awareness. Have you ever noticed that when you decide to buy a certain car, you suddenly see that car everywhere? The cars were always there, but your mind wasn't attuned to notice them. When you become crystal clear about what you want and hold that desire with burning intensity, opportunities that were always present suddenly become visible to you. But there is something even more profound at work. When you are deeply committed to a goal, you begin to emit a different energy. You walk differently, speak differently, and approach situations with a confidence that draws others to you. People sense purpose, and they want to be part of something meaningful. The person with vague wishes and half-hearted desires repels opportunity. The person with definite plans and unwavering commitment attracts allies, mentors, and resources as naturally as a magnet attracts iron. This is not mystical thinking. This is observable human psychology. We are drawn to those who know where they are going because certainty is rare and inspiring. Consider the story of Howard Schultz, who grew up in a housing project in Brooklyn, New York. His father was a truck driver who was injured on the job, leaving the family in financial crisis. Young Howard could have accepted the belief that his circumstances would define his future. Instead, he became obsessed with a vision of creating a different kind of company, one that treated employees with dignity and created a third place between home and work where community could flourish. When he proposed transforming a small coffee bean retailer into a cafe experience, he was rejected by the original owners. He was rejected by 217 investors when seeking money to buy the company and pursue his vision. But his mind was so focused, his belief so strong, that he persisted until he found the 3 investors who said yes. Today, Starbucks operates in over 80 countries with more than 30,000 locations. The company he built is worth billions, but more importantly, it employed hundreds of thousands of people and provided healthcare benefits to part-time workers, something almost unheard of in retail. This all began in the mind of a young man who refused to let circumstances dictate possibilities. Your definite purpose acts as a North Star, guiding every decision and action. When you are uncertain about your purpose, you drift. You say yes to opportunities that lead nowhere. You invest time and energy in pursuits that do not align with your ultimate objectives. But when your purpose is clear, decision-making becomes simple. Does this opportunity move me toward my goal or away from it? Does this relationship support my growth or drain my energy? Does this use of my time represent the highest and best use of my most valuable resource? With clarity of purpose, you develop the ability to say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. The mind, focused on a definite purpose, also develops what appears to others as uncanny intuition. You begin to sense which directions will be fruitful and which will be dead ends. This is not supernatural. This is your subconscious mind processing millions of pieces of information and pattern recognition that your conscious mind cannot access. When you have fed your subconscious a clear target, it works continuously to recognize relevant information and connect dots that seem unrelated to others. You might call it a hunch. but it is actually the culmination of focused thought-producing insight. There is a law in physics that states energy follows attention. Where you direct your focus, energy flows and results appear. If you constantly focus on problems, you will become an expert at identifying everything that is wrong, and your life will reflect that expertise. If you focus on possibilities and solutions, you train your mind to spot opportunities and pathways forward, even in challenging circumstances. This is not denying that problems exist. This is choosing which aspect of reality receives your mental power. Two people can experience the same setback. One focuses on the injustice of it and becomes bitter. The other focuses on what can be learned and becomes better. The external event is identical. The mental response creates entirely different futures. Let me share a final story that brings all of these principles together. A young woman named Sara was selling fax machines door to door, struggling to make ends meet. She had an idea for footless pantyhose, but she had no experience in fashion, no connections in the industry, and no money to hire experts. What she did have was absolute clarity about her vision and unwavering belief that she could make it happen. She spent 2 years researching patents and trademarks, learning about manufacturing, and perfecting her product using her own savings of $5,000. She was rejected by every mill she approached, until her persistence wore down one mill operator who agreed to help because his daughters loved the idea. When she needed a patent attorney but couldn't afford one, she bought a book and wrote her own patent application. When major retailers rejected her product, she kept pushing until she secured a meeting with a buyer at Neiman Marcus. That buyer happened to love the product and gave her a chance. Today, Sara Blakely's company, Spanx, has made her one of the youngest self-made female billionaires in history. But money is not the point of this story. The principle is, every limitation she faced was real, no capital, no industry experience, no connections, overwhelming rejection. Yet none of it mattered because her mind was made up. She had claimed her success in her thoughts first, and then her external reality had no choice but to eventually align with her internal conviction. This is the superpower you possess. This is the force available to every person willing to harness it through clear purpose, unwavering belief, and focused mental energy. Your mind is the only thing in this world over which you have complete control. Circumstances may constrain you temporarily. People may oppose you. Economic conditions may challenge you. But no one can control what you think unless you give them that power. In the sanctuary of your own mind, you are sovereign. You can choose thoughts of abundance over thoughts of scarcity. You can choose courage over fear. You can choose possibility over limitation. And with those choices repeated consistently over time, you literally reshape your brain, your habits, your actions, and ultimately your entire life. The question is not whether you have this power. You do. The question is whether you will claim it and use it deliberately, or whether you will leave your most valuable asset idle, while you search for success everywhere, except the one place it has always resided within you.